Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Assemblymember Cole. Dickman. Edgeworth. Gonzalez. Hibbets. Howdy. Miller. Monroe Moreno. Moore. Nadeem. Chair Mosca.
And I am here, if we could please mark Assemblymember Monroe Moreno present as she arrives. Welcome to the audience in Carson City, those joining by video conference in Las Vegas, and those listening over the internet. Before we begin, I'll make several housekeeping announcements. Please silence your electronic devices. If you wish to testify, please sign in at the table by the door and provide a business card to the committee secretary. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state and spell your name and state any affiliation for the record. Then turn off the microphone each time you're done speaking. There are hard copies of the meeting materials available for members of the public. Members of the public may also access electronic copies of the materials on the Nevada Legislature's website. Public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. Each person will be limited to 2 minutes. In addition, the public may submit written testimony to the committee up to 24 hours after the meeting. We expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we may not agree with one another's positions. Finally, committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents. Please do not view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. With that, let us get started. And today, we are first going to start with Assembly Bill 497. So I will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 497. This measure revises provisions relating to campaign finance, and we have Speaker Yeager presenting Assembly Bill 947 today, along with co-presenters. And so don't forget to limit your presentation to 15 minutes, and you may begin when you are ready.
Thank you so much, Chair Mosca, Vice Chair Gonzalez, and members of the Legislative Operations and Elections Committee. For the record, I am Steve Yeager. Welcome to Steve Yeager Day in Legislative Operations and Elections. I represent Assembly District 9, which is in Southwest Las Vegas, and I'm pleased to present Assembly Bill 497 to you today, which revises provisions relating to campaign finance. With me at the table, you'll see some familiar faces. We have Gabe from the Secretary of State's office, and I don't know if you all know Bradley Schrager, who's here to my right. He's going to help. Both of them are going to help present the bill and then answer questions as well. So, Chair, with your permission, I just have some background remarks, and then I'll go through the bill and we'll open it up for questions. So, I think this bill makes very common sense changes to our campaign finance laws to help inspire confidence that political contributions are being spent for appropriate activities. It also ensures that those who run for office and lose, and those who are former public officials, know exactly how long they can hold on to their campaign funds while continuing to be transparent with the public about how they are using those funds before they dispose of them. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to briefly take you through the sections of the bill. You do have up on the screen an explainer, one-pager that I provided to the committee, so hopefully that was helpful in preparing for today's hearing, or if you have questions afterwards, that may be helpful as a frame of reference. So Section 1 of the bill authorizes a political action committee, also known as a PAC, to use contributions deposited in its account for certain purposes, including contributing to a candidate, legal defense fund, a nonprofit corporation, another PAC, committee for the recall of a public officer, public party, or committee sponsored by a political party. Note that PAC contributions to candidates under this bill are still subject to the campaign contribution limits that are set forth in statute of $10,000 per candidate. Political action committees may also use contributions to make any expenditure, including an independent expenditure. It might surprise folks to know that the law right now is relatively unclear about how PACs can spend their money. And that's caused, I think, some confusion, and I think it's caused some abuses on the way that political action committees have spent money in the past, including for personal things that have nothing at all to do with campaigns. So we want to make sure that that is very clear in the law, that you cannot use your political action committee as a personal slush fund. I don't think when folks contribute to your PAC, they think you're going to use the money in that way, so we ought to put in statute that you can't use the money in that way. Section 2 of the bill revises the definition of a committee for political action to exclude any nonprofit organization or corporation organized under federal law, state law, or the laws of any other state, the District of Columbia, or the territory of the United States. Section 3 authorizes defeated candidates to use unspent contributions in their next election if the election takes place within the next 4 years. Current law allows elected candidates to use any unspent contributions in their next election, but defeated candidates must dispose of any unspent contributions. Assembly Bill 497 would provide the same opportunity for defeated candidates to use unspent contributions in their next election, so long as that election is within the next 4 years. Now, if a defeated candidate does not file a declaration of candidacy or appear on an official ballot at any election within the 4-year period, they must dispose of all unspent contributions in a manner consistent with existing law. Section 3 additionally clarifies that defeated candidates with any unspent contributions are subject to campaign finance reporting requirements as long as they have unspent contributions. This is important for transparency. If you have campaign funds, you should be required to file disclosures about what you're doing with those campaign funds, even if you're not currently in office. Section 3 originally required all former public officials to dispose of unspent contributions by the 15th day of the second month after leaving office. However, there is a proposed amendment, and I do apologize, Chair. I think I got that to the committee a little later than I would have liked. But the amendment revises that date so that those who are unsure about whether they're going to run for re-election, or whether to run for another election, I should say, may hold on to campaign contributions until they definitively decide not to run in the next election, whether that be in office or 2 years or 4 years out. So the proposed amendment that you have revises subsection 8 of section 3 to require a former public officer to dispose of any unspent campaign contributions within 15 days after that 4-year period. So we're essentially aligning whether you're defeated at an election or whether your term of office has expired and you're considering running for another election. You're going to essentially have 4 years to decide whether to do that. And again, you're going to have to file campaign finance reports during that period. And if you decide at the end of that 4-year period that you're not going to run for something, then you'll have to dispose of those monies as required by law. So, Chair Mosca, members of the committee, that concludes my presentation on Assembly Bill 497. And before we open it up for questions, I would invite either of my colleagues here at the table, if they'd like to make additional remarks on the bill, would welcome that. Otherwise, we'd be available for questions.
Yes, if I may. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Bradley Schrager, S-C-H-R-A-G-E-R. I'm an attorney in Las Vegas with the law firm of Bravo Schrager. I've been a longtime election and political law attorney, and I'll just add a few comments to add some color with my experiences as an election attorney on all three sections here. The first portion being the usage of PAC money. You've all been candidates before. You understand that you have a personal use ban on your own campaign accounts. There has never been such a rule for PACs, and so they have operated more or less in the dark. Not just candidates' own PACs or officials' own PACs, but all PACs. We all know there are many types of political action committees. But instead of terming it as there shall be no personal use of PAC money because it sort of fits awkwardly, we set it up in a here are the things you can do with PAC money. And they are the things that a PAC ought to be legally doing with money and ought not to be doing things that are outside of this list. So the sort of list of things you can do with PAC money here will now be the exclusive range of things that are lawful for the use of PAC money. We all know how important PACs are to the functioning of electoral machinery here in Nevada, as it is elsewhere, but they should be better regulated. Secondly, the definition of a PAC, and to exclude nonprofit corporations. In all my years as an election attorney here in Nevada, probably the single most frequent question I get is from players, either nonprofits or others making contributions into Nevada, wondering what does that mean for my organization? Does that turn me into a PAC? And for many years, it was sort of grayish. There is, in 294A0055, there's a trigger in which if you act at a certain monetary threshold, no matter what you are, a nonprofit or otherwise, you are all of a sudden magically to be regulated as a PAC. You become a PAC essentially automatically. But the notion of how you then register, what reports you do, all those things were all still very confusing to people. And so folks would either be overreacting to the possibility of regulation or they would not participate. So we thought it prudent to make very clear that nonprofits will be regulated as nonprofits and PACs will be regulated as PACs, and to keep those separate, and that there's nothing that magically transforms well-meaning nonprofits into PACs to be regulated as PACs because of their political activity. And then last but not least, there is no more confusing and complex statute in the entire election code than what to do with unspent campaign monies. There was one of the problems with it is that no matter what your situation, a clever lawyer, and I don't claim to be one, I just claim to be a lawyer, but a clever lawyer could always find some way for you to keep your money or to make a complaint against someone that they hadn't gotten rid of their money, no matter what the circumstances were. So the sort of bright lines that we'd be establishing here, getting rid of all the sort of underbrush in the unspent and the disposition statute would mean it didn't matter if you lost your primary or your general election, if you left office, whatever your situation is. If you are no longer a candidate or an elected official, you've got 4 years to either run for another office or you have to get rid of your money. That seemed to us to be to make allowance for the fact that there are 4-year offices you may want to run for. So we stretched the 4 years out. If you left office and wanted to run for for example, a state Senate seat that wouldn't be open for 4 years, you could still use the money you had 4 years from then. But that was going to be the outer limit because that's really the longest period you could go to wait until you had to run for another office. So that would clear up an entire thicket of confusing directions to candidates as to what to do with their money and when. So I'll be happy to answer questions when the time comes, but I thank both you, Madam Chair, and the members of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Gabriel DeCara. I serve as the Chief Deputy Secretary of State under Secretary of State Francisco Aguilar. Secretary Aguilar would have loved to be here. He is presently downstairs presenting one of our elections omnibus bills to Senate Ledge Ops, so apologies that he could not be here. And thank you very much to the Speaker for bringing this bill. Secretary Aguilar has been clear that transparency is incredibly important to any Secretary of State's administration, especially when it comes to campaign finance. These measures would provide important clarity and level the playing field, as Mr. Schrager said, and no offense to any attorneys who may be sitting anywhere in the room, but as the Secretary of State's office, we get a lot of legal arguments made to us about, well, actually, the statute's silent on this, and so we can use our money in such and such a way. Those arguments are sometimes very complicated and difficult to wade through, and something like this, clarifying a lot of these measures once and for all, would be very important from an oversight perspective for the Secretary of State's office. So thank you very much, and thank you to the Speaker for the bill.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate that, and we do have some questions. So we will start with Assemblymember Dickman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you. When I read this bill, I was so excited because I've been through these questions. You know, I lost 2 races and had money left over, and some people were telling me I had to get rid of it. The way I read it, I didn't because I had been in office, but it was so confusing. I love that you're clarifying this, so thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Majority Leader Hadigi.
Thank you. And just a quick question on section 1, I believe it is. Let me go back to yes, section 1, sub 1 through 7. So you can only spend your PAC money on the items that are expressly listed in this bill, correct? So I think I know the answer to this, but say you're using PAC money to fund a fundraiser for candidates, right? And you're using it to pay for the venue, the drinks, the food, would that be covered under this bill as a contribution to a candidate?
Madam Chair, may I speak directly to the Assembly member?
Oh, you may go direct. Just don't forget to restate your name.
Thank you so much. Bradley Schrager for the record. It would depend how that was characterized. That would be permitted under my reading of the bill. It could be a contribution if it would otherwise be an in-kind contribution for a candidate to their campaign or to their group. It could also be an expenditure under number 7, sub 7, which would be an expenditure essentially in support of electoral activity.
And thank you. And just to follow up on the question that my colleague from the North asked, so this only applies to political action committees' campaign accounts, not to individual campaign accounts, correct?
Bradley Schrager again for the record. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you. So next we will go to Assemblymember Cole.
And thank you for this. Anytime that we can clarify the law, it makes all the sense in the world. So I'm curious on the 4 years, and the reason I ask that is specifically related to federal Senate positions are 6 years, and then also Supreme Court justices are 6-year terms. So is there any consideration for that if somebody were to lose or?
Yes, Bradley Schrager again for the record, if I may speak directly to the member. Those are excellent catches. There was some question as to whether you could use your state money immediately for a federal Senate run anyway. But there are specific, in the case of a Supreme Court race, there are specific canons of campaign law in which obviously those are contested races, and Supreme Court justices do raise money for their races, but immediately after their election, they have to get rid of their cash anyway. So essentially, every Supreme Court race has to begin as a tabula rasa. So I think that those will be outside the ambit of these. But thank you for the question.
So not a follow-up, but a second question. On the contribution limits that you talked about, PAC to PAC is still unlimited, right? So no change there.
Bradley Schrager for the record. Yes, that's true. This would not involve anything having to do with what are only candidate hard money contribution limits.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblymember Nadeem.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. So my question is, if the candidate is running for a different position and after 4 years, that same candidate decided to run for some other position, so how will that money will transfer to the other funding account?
That's a very good question, and thank you for it, and it's worth clarifying. Bradley Schrager again for the record. After the 4 years, you would have 15 days to dispose of your campaign monies under the rubric that has always been in place as to the things you can do with that money. But from that point on, the sort of hypothetical candidate we're talking about would have a zero balance and would be starting over from scratch.
Gabriel DeCara for the record, just to follow up on that. Presently in statute, the campaign funds are for a run for office, not a specific office. So when a donor donates funds, they are not necessarily just donating for your election as an assembly member. If you were to, prior to filing as a candidate, you were to change your mind, that money changes with you. There are not separate limits, et cetera, for running for various offices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblymember Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. It's kind of a clarification type question. Under Section 3, where it's talking about, let's say that you have a elected official that either turns out or decides not to run for re-election, and they're waiting their statutorily allowed 4 years to decide if they're going to run for something, but they haven't decided, nor have they filed. Is there anything in here that prevents them from receiving campaign donations to this active account that they're now allowed to have for 4 years?
Thank you very much for the question, Bradley Schrager, for the record once again. No. In fact, I mean, any individual can accept contributions for the purposes of running for office at essentially any time, and so there would be nothing during this 4-year period that would say that you wouldn't do that. However, while Nevada law says that if you raise $100 running for an office, you are a candidate, the trigger for not having to dispose of the money that you've just raised, let's say you had $100,000 left in your account, and you were using your 4 years to decide whether or not to run for something else, and you continued to raise money, let's say you raised another $100,000, now you had $200,000, you would be a, quote, candidate in the eyes of the law, but until you had filed a declaration of candidacy or appeared on a ballot, the original 100,000 and the second 100,000 would be liable to be relinquished at the end of that 4-year period. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. And it looks like our last question will be from Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. Oh, and good afternoon. Hello. So I was curious if you could clarify the 4-year period. So if a candidate lost and they decided to run within that 4-year period, does the clock restart when they lose again?
Defeated candidate.
Yes, no. Thank you for the question. Bradley Schrager, once again, for the record. If I understand the question, it's during that 4-year period, you would essentially restart the clock, right? Yes. So as long as you filed for candidacy or appeared on election again, even if you lost again, you would have a new 4-year period upon that event. That's right.
Thank you. And I guess I do actually have a question just to make sure. So just making sure this applies to all PACs and is not individual candidates. It's PACs.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Bradley Schrager again for the record. Yes, Nevada law does not make any distinction between a candidate PAC. We don't really have a thing called a leadership PAC. All PACs are simply PACs. And so, yes, this would apply to every sort of political action committee in Nevada.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And with that, because it is Speaker Yeager Day, we will be limiting testimony because of time constraints to 20 minutes for each side. So 20 minutes in support, 20 minutes in opposition, and 20 minutes in neutral. Please feel free to say ditto if someone says something similar. And don't forget to make sure that your comments are about the bill and not the bill sponsor. So before I open it up here in Carson City, I will read out the phone number as well as the meeting ID. So if you do want to call in today, the number is 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 872-5205-8354. So we will start here in Carson City for anyone in support of Assembly Bill 497. Seeing none, we will move to Las Vegas. Seeing none, we will move to the phone lines. AVH, let's please open up testimony in support of Assembly Bill 497.
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 497, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers wishing to testify in support.
Okay, thank you. We will now move to opposition. If anyone is here in Carson City for opposition of Assembly Bill 497. Seeing none, we will move to Las Vegas. Seeing none in Las Vegas, we will AVH move back to the phone lines for opposition of Assembly Bill 497.
If you would like to testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 497, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Caller, please press star 6 to unmute yourself. Again, press star 6 to unmute. Chair, we have the caller dropped off. We have no additional callers in opposition.
Okay, thank you. Callers, remember you can always turn in your testimony up to 24 hours after the meeting. And with that, we will move to neutral. So anyone in neutral of Assembly Bill 497 here in Carson City? Seeing none, we will go to Las Vegas. Seeing none in neutral in Las Vegas, AVH will open up the phone lines for neutral of Assembly Bill 497.
If you would like to testify for neutral for Assembly Bill 497, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers wishing to testify under neutral.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'll invite Speaker Yeager up for any closing remarks. And seeing them waived, we will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 497 and open up the hearing on Assembly Bill 491. This measure revises provisions relating to elections. And you may begin when you're ready. You may go direct, and you'll have 15 minutes before we get to questions.
Thank you, Chair Muska, Vice Chair Gonzalez, members of the Legislative Operations and Elections Committee. For the record, I am Steve Yeager. I represent Assembly District 9 in Southwest Las Vegas, and I'm pleased to present Assembly Bill 491 to you this afternoon. This bill revises provisions relating to elections, specifically regarding data requests by the Secretary of State, qualifications for elected public office, declarations of candidacy, eligibility, and residency, and petitions of candidacy filed by independent candidates. With me at the table today is Bradley Schrager, who will help provide remarks and answer questions. By way of background, Chair, this bill really is more of a cleanup bill than anything, making common sense technical changes to elections law that will improve communication and the flow of information, which will ensure greater transparency. And it also makes a minor technical change to when independent candidates must file a petition of candidacy for partisan office. Chair, I'd like to take you and the committee through the bill at a very high level. And again, I did provide an explainer, so you can find that on Nellis if you're a member of the committee or you're a member of the public who wants to access that on our electronic system. So Section 1 of the bill requires city and county clerks to respond to a request by the Secretary of State for any data or information related to an election within 48 hours of receiving that request. The clerk must respond with either the information or data requested or a written explanation as to why he or she is unable to comply with the request, such as not having the requested data or information or needing more time to complete the request. Most of the bill, sections 2 and 7 through 77, this is the bulk of the bill, revises the qualifications for elected public officers other than federal offices to require the officers to be registered to vote in the state, district, county, township, or other area prescribed by law where they must reside, and if elected, over which they will have jurisdiction or represent. This means that candidates for these public offices must also be registered to vote in the appropriate jurisdiction. For statewide offices like the governor, attorney general, secretary of state, AB 491 would require these public officers or candidates for these offices to be registered to vote in the state of Nevada. Legislators and candidates of state legislative offices would be required to be registered to vote in the legislative district the office represents. Similarly, offices or candidates of county level, city level, or township level public offices would be required to be registered to vote in the appropriate county, city, or township. I was surprised to learn this isn't already a requirement, but it seems to me that if you're going to want to represent an area, you should be registered to vote in that area. Federal congressional districts notwithstanding, I think that's not too much to ask of folks who run for office on the state level, whether it be state or county or city level, you should be registered to vote there. So that is not a requirement under the law, and I think that's a common sense requirement that we should have under our law. That is most of the bill. Section 78 does clarify that these qualifications do not apply to any person who holds public office on October 1st, 2025. So instead, this would just apply going forward. So we're not going to boot somebody out of office because they're not registered to vote in the area they represent. They should register to vote in that area, make no mistake, but they won't be kicked out of office. So it only apply going forward. Chair, sections 3, 6, and 13 require those filing a declaration of candidacy or declaration of eligibility after that October 1 date to attest under penalty of perjury to the city or town and the county in Nevada where they are registered to vote. So that will become part of the form that we all have to fill out when we run for election, that you're attesting that you are registered to vote in that area. And then sections 3, 4, 6, and 13 provide that declarations of candidacy, residency, and eligibility are public records, and they must be made available by the filing officer to the public in electronic format. Now, this is, those of you that have been here for a while, we do occasionally have challenges to candidates, challenges that they don't live in the district, and those documents right now are really hard to get. You have to go down to the courthouse, you have to ask for them, they're not available in electronic format, and so I think this is a common sense provision where folks from the public or otherwise can look into these documents. And just by way of clarification, because some of you I think will probably be concerned about having your home address be public, which I think is a concern for all elected officials. There's already a way to have that masked, so that's not put out there in the world, but you do have to attest and sign under penalty of perjury that you do live in the district. So those are the documents that we're talking about. And then finally, Section 5 makes a change to the date by which independent candidates for partisan office must file a petition of candidacy from the third Friday in June to the Friday in June immediately after the primary election. And the real gist of this section is let's get through the primary election before folks start filing to be on the general election. That will make sure that that our Secretary of State and our clerks have cleared their workload of the primary election before they have to deal with, does this independent candidate qualify for the general election ballot? So that really is just a recognition that we don't want our elections folks having to do both of those things at the same time. Chair, members of the committee, that concludes my presentation on Assembly Bill 491. But with your permission, Chair, I would hand it over to Mr. Schrager to potentially add some color to a little bit of the facts that I gave you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Bradley Schrager, Schrager, attorney with Bravo Schrager, and I will confine my comments to the two provisions having to do with candidates registering to vote, and I'll if the Secretary of State's office has further comments regarding the data requests or the independent candidate filing, I certainly welcome their office to do so. There's really two reasons to move to, or two benefits to move to requiring candidates to be registered to vote in the district they're seeking to represent. Number one, as the Speaker rightly points out, it's just good policy, right? It is a very small step to place some confidence in the sort of facts of one's candidacy, right? Number two is that it is objectively verifiable. And, some of you may have seen over the last decade and a half or so, there have been numerous residency challenges. There have been others that have been threatened but not made. One of the complaints that arises is that the clerks who are the filing officers who receive your documents do not check anything, that they don't have time or opportunity to verify your eligibility. And that's still going to be true in large part, but one thing they can do right away when you come up to register, they can check whether or not you're registered to vote in the place where you are about to represent. And if you're not, then that's problematic and immediately would disqualify you from candidacy. And plus you'll be signing under penalty of perjury exactly where you're registered to vote. So those are objective checks that potentially could at least either deter someone from filing for a candidacy for which they may not be eligible and avoid the challenge process, or if in fact someone's found not to have lived in that place, could nip in the bud before a candidacy gets underway that is in fact improper and unlawful. So for those public benefits, we suggest that these are good policies that should be enacted and pursued. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, we do have some questions. So with that, we will first go to Majority Leader Hadeghi.
Thank you. And just one quick question. In Section 1, where you guys refer to the 48 hours in which a county clerk or registrar must respond, can I ask why hours and not days? Because I know when I've, in previous bills that I've used, I've said like 2 days, and they always want us to clarify whether it's calendar days or working days. And so with 48 hours, does that just mean 48 consecutive hours, or does that mean like...
Thank you for the question, Bradley Schrager. It may be that something, it may be hard to track on the clock if a request comes in at 11 o'clock one day and it must be then 2 11 o'clocks later must be handed in. So perhaps the notion of the end of the second business day may be more sort of plausible under this. This was sort of written as an accommodation to the Secretary of State so that they get the information they're requesting in order to inform the public and to run the elections properly from the county clerks. And as far as the working days, as I understand it, once we're into election season, every day is a working day, assembly member.
Yes, it is. Next, we'll go to Assemblymember Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. I agree that we should live in the districts that we represent. My question is there anything in here that requires someone to stay living in that district once they have filed and filled out their form? Oh, and then I also have a second one after that, unrelated.
Thank you very much, Assemblymember Bradley Schrager, again for the record. No. Here's the issue with that. I agree that would be excellent policy, and someone could, for most offices, make a challenge to someone who had left their office. Like if you were a city council person, or if you were a county commission person, someone could make a challenge saying, you no longer live here, you have forfeited your right to represent this particular district. That's different for legislators, because once made a member of the legislature, the qualifications and eligibility of that member can only be judged by the House itself. So under the Nevada Constitution, even if we were to write that, the only way for someone to, I mean, you could publicize that someone doesn't live there, but that could be done through the political process. But as far as a legal process, one would have to go through the process of expulsion to act upon that as far as a legislator goes.
So just to clarify, let's take the legislative body out of the discussion for a second, because obviously we're subject to slightly different rules. If I had held a position, let's say as a county commissioner for whatever county, and I filed my affidavit, said I live in this county, I'm registered to vote in this county, I run, I win, and then I decide I'm going to move into another district or another county for that matter. There is nothing in this law that prevents that.
Once again, Bradley Schrager for the record. Thank you, Assembly Member. I want to be clear, we're talking about two different sets of requirements. One is to become a candidate, to run. That's what's covered in this and other statutes. I believe there are statutes that involve your ability to continue to serve in your office, which are not in this law but are already codified in Nevada law, that if you establish residency elsewhere during your term, you are subject to proceedings to be removed, but either by private action or by the district attorney of your county.
Thank you for clarifying that. I just wanted to make sure that somewhere that actually existed, because I did believe that it did. And if I may ask a second. Yeah. Thank you. Now, in your bill, you're just making it looks to me like more of it's section 2, sub 3, or no, I'm sorry, and it's now sub 4. The provisions of paragraph A, subsection 1 do not apply to candidates for the office of district attorney. Now, that's already existing law from how I can read it, but I'm just curious as to why that is. Does anybody have I mean, Mr. Schrager is apparently the election law guru. I thought maybe he could shed some light on that.
Thank you very much, Assembly Member Bradley Schrager, again for the record. I actually don't have an answer for that, but I'd be happy to run that down and get that information to you as best I can.
Thank you. Next, we have Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Again, just a clarifying question. So when a candidate, so this law would make it that you would have to be registered to vote at the address that you are, or the office that you're running for, is that correct?
Thank you, Assembly Member Bradley Schrager. You would need to be registered to vote in the district. That would be the only change that this would make. So now obviously the address at which you are registered would then necessarily need to be in the district, and the address that you are actually residing at would need to be in the district, as it always has been. So I think there's an overlap in what you're talking about.
Ma'am, follow-up, Chair, please. So could there be a situation where those two addresses would be different still in the district?
once again, Bradley Schrager for the record. I suppose theoretically that is possible depending on when you registered and when you moved. If you moved between houses within the district, for example, let's say you lived in my neighborhood for 15 years and I registered 15 years ago in my district and I ran for office in my district, but I moved from one house to the other. Now it's certainly a better practice for you to update your registration and to make sure that the residence you are swearing you lived at in your candidacy papers was the correct one. This would not cover that situation as long as you remained a registered voter within the district you were seeking to represent.
Okay, we have another follow-up, please. Thank you so much. Okay, so like I'm a renter. I move around a lot. I moved around in my district. And so when I went to file for office, they did have my previous registered address. So my question is, so I would have to go to the DMV to change that, right? I wouldn't then file and then ask them to then change that address, right? Or, I've had situations where, let's say I changed my ID, but then my voter registration wasn't updated. In this last election, for an example, I moved units in the same community, right? And so, for those of us that move around a lot, it can be confusing. So I just wanted some clarification for that.
Yes, no, that's an excellent point. Once again, Bradley Schrager for the record. In our mobile society now, this is an issue, I think, for a lot of people. In a lot of different situations, anytime you move your address, there are a number of things that would be your best practices to update, right? Whether it's your driver's license, though you don't have to. That's not the law that you have to have your. That's why every time you hand somebody your driver's license, they ask, "Do you still live there?" Right? Because you don't have to go 2 days later. God forbid you had to go every year to the DMV. It's bad enough when you do have to go. But your voter registration and of course, when you go to file your declaration of candidacy, what the declaration says is, I swear under penalty of perjury that I live at this address. So as long as you are saying what your current address is, and you can, if pressed, prove that that's true, you should be covered then. And as long as you are registered to vote in that district, the fact that you may at that moment have a voter registration address that is not exact wouldn't necessarily preclude you under this, but you should also, as a best practice, go and update your voter registration as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And that just triggered another question. So I know when we decide to run for office in the district that we live in, we have to move there 30 days prior. So is there any time frame in which you need to be registered? So could I move or change my registration the day before filing for candidacy? And then how fast does that update in the voter file? And how fast would the elections department have that information?
Yes, Bradley Schrager for the record, to follow up on what is an excellent question, an excellent technical question. This would, under the language of Section 2, you would need to be registered to vote 30 days before, right? At the same time you had established your residency under law, certainly. As far as the updating question, that's, I think, a better question for the Secretary of State's office, but I think it's pretty, depending on the way in which you do it. For example, if you mail it in, or it would take longer. If you do it online, it's pretty quick. So there could be no or a very small gap in between those two.
Gabriel DeCara for the record. Yes, that's absolutely correct. So as soon as you update your voter registration, whether it's at the county office, again, with something as delicate as that, I would not necessarily trust it to the United States Postal Service at present. So I would recommend updating your registration online or at a county office. But yes, as soon as it's updated by the county, it is updated immediately in the Secretary of State system.
Thank you. And I know we all dread going to the DMV, but as somebody who moves a lot, unfortunately, I will say the online system has made it relatively quickly to go on there, change your address, and get your ID updated. So thank you so much for the indulgence, Chair, and for answering all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And what I believe is our last question will go to Assemblymember Cole.
Hello. So my question is regarding the city election process. As I read it here, it seems that you have to be registered to vote just in the city. So city of North Las Vegas, it doesn't matter what ward you're in, but city of North Las Vegas, as I understand, and I think Henderson as well, you have to live in the ward to represent and run for the ward. So I guess my question is, this in no way would supersede what the various cities and jurisdictions already have in place, correct?
Bradley Schrager, for the record, Assemblywoman Cole. That is an excellent question and a good catch if that's problematic, because the intention, I think, would be the same as if you're running for a commission district, that the ward should be the place where you're registered to vote as well. Because the intention here is for you to signal that you are living among the people, and voting, an active political participant among the people that you are seeking to represent. So I will double check on the compliance of that, and if not, we will suggest it as an amendment to capture exactly what you're saying.
And just so I'm clear, I don't necessarily want to make sure that I don't want the state law to change what cities already are doing. So I don't know if there are other jurisdictions that actually don't care if you live in the particular ward or not. So you might need to do some research. I don't know the answer to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I see any other questions. So with that, thank you so much. We will open up testimony for Assembly Bill 491. I will read out the line again in case those who want to call in, and it is on our agenda as well if you can't understand my voice today. We are at 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 872-5205-8354. So we will open up testimony in support. We will also do 20 minutes for support, opposition, and neutral today. Seeing none in Carson City, we will go down to Las Vegas. Seeing none in Las Vegas, we'll open up support AVH on the phone lines, please, for Assembly Bill 491.
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 491, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers for support at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, are going to now move to opposition. So anyone here in Carson City in opposition of Assembly Bill 491? Seeing none, we'll go down to Las Vegas, but also seeing none, AVH will move to the phone lines for opposition of Assembly Bill 491.
To testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 491, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. My name is Jim DeGraffenreid, JIMDEGRAFFENREID. I'm Nevada's Republican National Committeeman here in opposition to just one part of AB 491. We are in support of sections 2 through 5. Like Speaker Yeager, we were very surprised to learn the candidates did not need to be registered to vote in their districts. Section 1, however, of AB 491 mandates exceptions, the county or city clerk must either respond to a request for data within 48 hours or provide a written explanation. We're in opposition to that because our clerks do an excellent job, but they are under a number of mandates placed on them by the legislature and the Secretary of State. 48 hours may not be enough time for thorough collection, validation, or analysis, especially in larger jurisdictions, and it could also be a burden on smaller counties. We would ask you to reevaluate Section 1, and with that, we thank you.
Thank you. AVH, next caller, please.
Thank you, Chair. We have no additional callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. We will now open up testimony in neutral for Assembly Bill 491. Don't forget to state and spell your name for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca, Vice Chair Gonzalez, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matievich, CADENCEMATIJEVICH, representing Washoe County. And I want to start by saying we're appreciative of to be here on Speaker Yeager Day, and for the dialogue that we have had with him and the Secretary of State and other stakeholders on this bill. Washoe County is neutral on the position, on the policy of the bill, but there is one piece of it that we're still working on technical implementation. That's in Section 5, the portion around when the petition for candidacy must be filed. We appreciate the intent that the Speaker indicated of trying to separate those two duties. As we look at the calendar for the 2026 primary, the primary will be held on June 9th. Petitions under this new section would be required to be filed by June 12th. We are still processing and will not canvass until June 19th. So we think that there may just need to be some slight tweaks there to make sure that we're meeting the intent. And then, Madam Chair, if I may, and I'm certain that your legal counsel can confirm this, but in response to Assemblymember Cole's question regarding cities, typically the provisions that you were inquiring about are set forth in the city charter, and that is a special act. And so in my look at the bill, nothing in here would change what exists in the city charter. So those requirements around ward residency, if in fact that's in a city charter, would remain in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other neutral here in Carson City, we'll go down to Las Vegas. Seeing no testimony in neutral in Las Vegas, AVH, we can now open the phone lines for neutral in Assembly Bill 491.
Thank you. If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 491, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers wishing to testify in neutral.
Thank you. I would like to invite Speaker Yeager. No closing remarks. Okay. We'll go on to our third bill for the day. So we will now go on to Assembly Bill 496. This measure revises provisions relating to elections.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Mosca, Vice Chair Gonzalez, and members of the Legislative Operations and Elections Committee. For the record, I am still Steve Yeager. I still represent Assembly District 9 in Southwest Las Vegas, and I am pleased to present Assembly Bill 496 to you this afternoon. This is an elections bill relating to data reporting on mail and provisional ballots, posting voter registration lists online, and requiring certain information useful to the signature curing process to be included on mail ballot return envelopes. With me at the table is Bradley Schrager, who will help add some color to the bill and will be here to answer questions. And Chair, I should mention, this bill is still a work in progress. I realize we're 4 days away from deadline, but we are still working with our very hardworking elections officials to make sure that we have something that they can actually implement. So I will just say that those discussions have been very productive and they are still ongoing, and I'm confident that we'll get to a place that works for everybody. So by way of background, Chair, this bill makes what I believe are some important changes to our elections laws that will ensure greater transparency in that everyone will receive information sooner and on a daily basis relative to the number of outstanding ballots, as well as ensuring that fewer votes will be rejected due to placing a ballot in the wrong envelope when there are multiple voters in one household, for example. In addition, the bill will make it easier for elections officials to contact voters who need to verify their signatures, resulting in more votes being counted rather than rejected. Chair, with your permission, I'm going to take you through the sections of the bill. Sections 2 through 8 require county and city clerks to post data on mail ballots and provisional ballots to their website every 24 hours during an election from the start of early voting to the final canvass of election results. The Secretary of State must also post a compilation of such data on their website. Specifically, starting the day after early voting begins and ending the day after the canvass of results, clerks must report each day the total number of mail ballots that have been returned to a drop box, returned by mail, the number of mail ballots that require curing of a signature defect, and the number that have been successfully cured. Additionally, during the same period, clerks must report each day the total number of provisional ballots cast, including those that both have and have not been counted. Sections 2 through 8 also require clerks to report additional information each day starting the day after the election and ending the day after the canvass. During this period, clerks must report the total number of mail ballots that are in the custody of the United States Postal Service and the clerk, and the number of counted mail ballots that have not yet been tabulated, and the number of cast provisional ballots for which voters have subsequently provided the required identification. The original language of sections 2 and 8 required county and city clerks to post such information online by 10 a.m. each day. However, in speaking to the clerks, I have worked with them and heard their concerns, and I have submitted a proposed amendment to change this deadline to 5 p.m. so the clerks have the entire day, at least the entire business day, to compile and post the information. The intent here, Chair and members of the committee, I hope is clear. In the last election, when we got to election night and the days that followed, there was a lot of confusion and, frankly, a lot of misinformation about how many ballots remained to be counted. I remember seeing information on social media and not knowing whether it was true, whether it was verified. But for those of us who are in very competitive seats and have close elections, it's always good to know how many ballots are left to be counted, because I think we can make some conclusions about how races might turn out and where to put our efforts. In addition, I think it's good for the public to know that. I mean, I heard estimates in Clark County about how many votes remain to be counted, ranging. There was a 100,000 vote range that was being talked about. This bill would make sure by 5 o'clock every night everyone had the same information to work off of and knew exactly how many ballots were out there and what stage of the process they were in. Chair, sections 5 through 7 of the bill clarify that access to information concerning an individual provisional ballot will remain restricted to the person who cast the ballot. However, the clerks and Secretary of State may aggregate data about provisional ballots as required by Assembly Bill 496. Section 3 of the bill requires county clerks to post online an alphabetical list of all registered voters in the county on the first business day of each month. These lists must be made available for download free of charge. Section 6 makes a conforming change to require county clerks to include the identification numbers of registered voters on the alphabetical list of registered voters, similar to how these identification numbers are included on other lists of registered voters made available for public inspection. Finally, sections 4 and 9 require mail ballot envelopes to additionally include the name of the voter in print and a space for the voter to write his or her telephone number for the purpose of contacting the voter if necessary for signature, curing, or verification. And Madam Chair, what we're trying to get at here is you may have a situation where you have multiple voters who are in one household and they all receive mail-in ballots. You might not know this, but if you put your mail-in ballot in the wrong envelope, it will not be counted. It will be rejected. The envelope is specific to the ballot, but we don't have any identifying information on the ballot. We don't have a person's name. So the idea here is if we have your name on the envelope, you're much less likely to put your ballot in somebody else's envelope. We think that's a common sense change. And then the ability to write a phone number, it's not required, but a voter can provide a phone number, and that way if there are issues that arise with signature verifications, there's a very simple and easy way for the clerk to be able to contact the individual to verify the signature. I would ask all voters, if they're going to take advantage of this, to make sure you write numbers clearly, make sure that they can read the phone number. But that is the intent behind sections 4 and 9. And then, Chair, as I mentioned, there is one proposed amendment. In addition to changing the time to 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., the amendment seeks to additionally require county and city clerks to post lists of individual ballots that have been flagged for curing, ballots that have been cured, and the reason for which the ballot was sent to cure. The Secretary of State shall categorize these reasons for curing a ballot through regulation, so we don't have to do it in statute. Clerks must update that list every 24 hours. For those of you on the committee who were involved in very competitive elections, having an updated list of who you need to contact to cure your ballot is very important. We had multiple situations of voters becoming very frustrated when they were communicated with several times over the course of several days when they had already cured their ballot previously. So what we want to make sure is that we as candidates and those who are trying to get signatures cured know who they should be contacting. So that information being updated really is crucial. So, Chair, members of the committee, that concludes my presentation on Assembly Bill 496, and I'd love to hand it over to Mr. Schrager to add some more detail.
Thank you, Speaker Yeager. Once again, Bradley Schrager of the law firm of Bravo Schrager from Las Vegas. I won't speak too much about the updated voter list, which I think is very good to regularize that, or about the changes to the ballot envelope, including individuals' names. But I really cannot overstate the importance of the data, the ballot data aspect of this of this bill. All of us are certainly aware of the consternation and confusion and all of that surrounded a lack of information, both from the counties and the state, about how many ballots were out there, how many had been placed in the mail, how many had been sent to cure. You know, what are the things we know about the process? And some of the sort of anxiety about the results of an election occur because you don't know what's happening. So this is an attempt to provide better sightlines for the electorate into the election processes as they are happening. It also provide better sightlines into the processes for the press, because most people get their ideas and understandings of what's happening as an election is unfolding from news sources. So this data will provide the ability for people to understand the workload of the individual counties, what to expect tomorrow because we had this many mail ballots dropped or placed in the USPS 2 days ago. You'll be able to sort of chart in advance what's happening, but also understand what's already happened with signature rejections or ballots sent to cure or provisional ballots. Another reason why it's important to regularize this is that even though some of that information came in spottily throughout the last election or elections previously, it wasn't regularized. Counties did it on their own timelines. So sometimes one county would be 2 days ahead of another. So you couldn't have a statewide picture, a coherent snapshot at any one time. So this isn't just good for candidates who understand how many votes are left in their race, or for, political parties who know who and how many people they have to contact as voting is unfolding. But it also ought to help reduce anxiety because it provides information about what's happening in the election and what has already happened and what to expect tomorrow and the ensuing days regarding the workload of the counties, the ballots that are coming in, where they're coming from. So we'll have both county snapshots constantly and aggregated statewide snapshots every single day that should provide important information for the people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. With that, we do have some questions. We'll start with Assemblymember Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question's on section 2, subsection 2. It's the total number of mail ballots in the county that are in the custody of the U.S. Postal Service. Can you go into a little bit more detail? How do they figure out who?
That is an excellent question. Bradley Schrager, for the record. It is possible to get once mail ballots are scanned by the U.S. Postal Service anywhere in America, whether it's an absentee voter in Maine or whether it's someone across the street here in Carson City, that data is logged, and you can literally know how many ballots have been placed into the mail stream but have not yet arrived at the particular county. So, for example, Clark County will know sometime in the next 24 to 72 hours, we're going to receive this many ballots because they've been placed into the mail stream. Now, it's not always possible to be exact because the counties are not going to be the ones who are sort of in charge of that information, but it'll be pretty close because the Postal Service, for whatever other faults they have, pretty good at tracking election mail. So through the scanning system, through the barcodes, the QR system, you can know that fact. And that's an important thing to know to be able to plan for the counties and to understand what's coming.
So with that, would the counties be able to say approximately X number of ballots in the custody of U.S. Postal?
Yes, Bradley Schrager with the record. That's exactly the aim, yes. And exactly the information that can and will be provided.
Thank you. Assemblymember Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. Going through this, and everywhere I'm looking, I see county clerk and then, of course, corresponding city clerk notices. But nowhere in here do I see registrar of voters. Does that mean that it does not apply to Clark and Washoe County? Or are we putting this duty on the county clerks as opposed to the registrar of voters?
Thank you for that question. Again, Bradley Schrager for the record. Thank you for that question. That's an important thing for me to be able to clarify. The law in Nevada put these duties upon county clerks. Through subsequent legislation, counties of a certain size, or actually, if a bill passes this time, every county will be able to do it. Counties may elect to put the duties of the clerk onto a registrar. So registrars are essentially creatures created by the counties themselves. So, but they carry out the duties that clerks would have. So anytime in law it says county clerk, those duties pass through the county clerk to the registrar. So there's functionally no difference.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assemblymember Nadeem.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you so much, Speaker, for bringing this bill. I just want to say it's a great bill. It is an awesome step toward ballot curing and counting in upcoming election, especially the daily ballot reporting and free voter online list is going to make the voting process more transparent and efficient. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Assemblymember Dickman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question about Section 3. What is the purpose of listing the alphabetical list of every registered voter, and what information would be included with that? Just the names or more? I mean, if it's just a name, how is it useful?
Thank you very much. Excellent question, Bradley Schrager, for the record. The information, if you look at the statewide voter list now, it isn't just a listed name. It also contains the voter registration ID. Does it contain the addresses as well or no? Yeah. Also addresses. I mean, it's your voter registration record. So the same thing you would see in the statewide voter registration list now. So there'd be nothing new. What we are doing here is regularizing a release of a statewide county and statewide list on a monthly basis, as opposed to what has been a more haphazard release of that information up until now.
So may I? So, people who don't want their, address out there, so they would have to check the box that says private, or, because I know, I mean, I've purchased lists. It'll be the same list, only it'll be free now.
Bradley Schrager for the record. Yes, Assembly Member, that's exactly right. And if anyone didn't want themselves on the list, as you know, there's already a process to remove what you want to be confidential information from that statewide list. So yes, it will essentially be the same thing you see now. We are simply regularizing it and making it free and available all the time.
So I think we should make that clear, have the registrars or the clerks make that clear to people that they should exclude that stuff, because it's open to anybody now. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Next question, Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. I have two questions, Chair, if that's okay. My first one is the alphabetical list, will that still be broken down by like district and where all that information? Or is it alphabetical in terms of the entire voter file?
Thank you for the question, Gabriel DeCare, for the record. So the district information of the voter is available as part of that file, I believe by default. I actually can't recall if it's organized numerically by voter ID number or if it's alphabetically. My guess is probably alphabetically, but the information is there in one, presently for the statewide file, one incredibly large spreadsheet.
Thank you so much. And then my other question is, what are the top reasons for a ballot needing to be cured?
This past election we saw, and I hesitate to, Gabriel DeCare for the record, I hesitate to say overwhelming, but we saw a significant number of ballots that required signature cure. I believe we ended up with somewhere around 12,000 ballots that could not be counted because those signatures had not been cured. That is a byproduct of our universal vote by mail process. every voter must sign their signature to the mail ballot return envelope. That signature is matched against the voter's signature on file, and if those things do not match, the voter must cure or contact the county clerk's office to confirm that yes, that is me, that is my vote, so that vote may be tabulated. There are other circumstances that could require cure. Any time a voter's address information does not match. So, for example, let's say a voter registers same day. That voter is required to provide additional information before that ballot can be counted. Again, just to confirm that that voter is who they say they are, they live where they say they do, all their information is correct, et cetera.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I make
go
one
ahead.
comment following from that? Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. When we talk about reasons for having to cure your signature, having your signature rejected is obviously, as the Secretary of State's office makes clear, at or near the top. He mentioned 12,000 Nevadans who were unable to cure their signature and did not have their votes counted. Now, there were tens of thousands of Nevadans who did cure their signatures, which means that they had to go through the cure process. Their signatures were rejected, and they went through the process and had them cured. And that took tons of person hours and all those sorts of things. I want to say one thing about the, let's say, 30, 40,000 people who had their signatures sent to cure. I don't believe anyone in their right mind believes that 40,000 Nevadans chose to try and commit a felony and to defraud the state for the purposes of casting one vote that would change literally nothing in an election. So clearly there is a systemic problem regarding what we do with signatures and how people get through that process to cast their votes, because there is simply no way that 40,000 or more Nevadans should have to be going through that process and to struggle to have their votes counted. And we'll probably talk about some of this later on in this session, but I wanted to make that clear for the record.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for that. And what I believe is our last question. I have a question for the Secretary of State's office. I know we hear a lot about clerk workload, and so wanted to know if VREMs would help with any of this, or if not, what VREMs will help with to give the clerks less workload to be able to implement this.
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. Gabriel DeCara for the record. So any additional reporting requirements would be worked on by the state in conjunction with the clerks. My guess is, I can't say this for sure, my guess is that what would happen, because all of this information is put into the centralized top-down database, that the Secretary of State's office would essentially prepare reports that the county clerk would be able to log into their system, because each clerk only has access to their portion of the database, and they would be able to run each of these reports on the basis required by the law, and would be able to post that information where necessary. But the state would be working hand in glove with the clerks to ensure that this is not putting additional work on them, that the process is as streamlined and prepared as possible. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And seeing no other questions, we will move to testimony. Thank you so much. We will continue to do 20 minutes of support, 20 minutes of opposition, and 20 minutes for neutral for this bill is AB 496. Again, for our phone lines, 888-475-4499 and meeting ID 872-5205. 8354. So we'll start here for testimony in support of Assembly Bill 496 in Carson City. Seeing none, we will go to Las Vegas. And seeing none, AVH, we will open up the phone line for support of Assembly Bill 496.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 496, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers wishing to testify in support.
Okay, thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 496. We will start here in Carson City. Seeing none, we'll move to Las Vegas. And seeing none in Las Vegas, AVH, can we please open up the phone lines for opposition of Assembly Bill 496?
To testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 496, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon. My name is Ellen Gifford. ELLENGIFFORD. Existing law gives county clerks the option of publishing a listing of registered voters in their county newspapers one time, usually around election time. Mandating the county clerk publish a listing of registered voters on their website on the first day of every month infringes on the county clerk's right by law to provide this information one time. And there's no benefit in providing information every month that is only of interest to voters around election time. The Secretary of State, which I will shorten to SOS, has a website, NevVoter, that already provides access to a statewide voter registration database, reflecting the county voter registration information. Access to NevVoter involves creating a web account and completing an official request form. Then qualification for access must be verified and granted by the SOS. Mandating the county clerks make this information available for free completely contradicts the access requirements enforced by the NevVoter system. This section duplicates effort, imposing a waste of resources and cost upon Nevada counties and taxpayers. Expecting voters to provide their name and phone number on the outside of a return envelope invites fraud and is absurd. Anyone can write on the outside of an envelope. And Section 2 is unclear. One who didn't know better might think there are provisional ballots to be counted before the day after Election Day. And I must assume that have been counted means the total number of valid provisional ballots cast, and have not been counted means total number of rejected provisional ballots. Thank you.
Thank you. AVH, next caller.
Chair, we have no additional callers in opposition at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will open up testimony in neutral for Assembly Bill 496 here in Carson City. Don't forget to state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes, and make sure we talk about the bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca and committee. My name is Jim DeGraffenreid, JIMDEGRAFFENREID. I'm Nevada's Republican National Committeeman here in neutral on AB 496. We were almost in support of this bill. Publishing the list that is in Section 3 is an excellent step, we think, in providing registration info in a cost-effective manner. Certainly it's difficult and expensive to publish that in the newspaper each time as under current law. However, the provisions in Sections 2, 5, 7, and 8 are only necessary because of the way that we actually operate elections in this state. Nevada election results and our counting is a national embarrassment. Anybody that goes to any of our casinos can testify to our ability to count cash and chips in a timely manner, but at ballots, we can't seem to do the same thing. If we didn't have universal mail ballots, if we did not accept ballots for nearly a week after elections, then we could probably provide timely and accurate results as the vast majority of other states do. Given the situation that we're in with our elections, the things in these sections are probably a benefit and they probably improve our ability to put things out, but we really need to address the underlying problems as opposed to trying to put a Band-Aid on these. Thank you.
Hello, Chair Mosca, members of the committee. My name is Ashley Kennedy, representing Clark County, last name spelled Kennedy. And I just want to thank Speaker Yeager and his bill and the bill proponents to working with us and meeting with us about this bill. I think there are obviously some technical considerations to work through. Hopefully, once and as expected, once top-down is fully implemented, a lot of this reporting pieces become a lot easier. And I think that is the whole goal of trying to move to a top-down system rather than the bottom-up system that we had operated in for so long. I think from Clark County's perspective, and what we're really looking forward to further conversations is just clarifying that, making sure that when we are reporting information, that the voters and the public know the type of what that information means, and that we're all using the same terminology. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matijevich, Cadencemativich, representing Washoe County. Also, on this bill, again, Washoe County does not have a policy position on the bill. We do appreciate Speaker Yeager working with us to address technical concerns, particularly sections 2 and 8, the pieces around reporting what's in the custody of the United States Postal Service. Assemblymember Monroe Moreno, we appreciate your questions there, and the clarification that that really it would be that what we know to be in the custody of the United States Postal Service. You heard a little bit earlier, someone referred to that we don't always have 100% faith in the Postal Service and whether or not they've actually begun their scanning activities on any given day, to have those into a system that we could pull that data from. We would look forward to that clarification. We're excited about the opportunity to have space on the ballot for a phone number to cure, and we think that will be a great improvement. Thank you.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Vincent Guthreau. Last name is spelled G-U-T-H-R-E-A-U. My first name, Vincent, V-I-N-S-O-N. I represent I'm the executive director of the Nevada Association of Counties, or NACO, who represents all 17 counties. I'll echo the comments of the individual county representatives here. We really appreciate the speaker continuing continuing to have conversations. I'm here for some of our smaller jurisdictions. I think we also have some operational implementation discussions that need to continue on that end, but for now, we'll just leave it at thanks for continuing the conversations. So I wanted to confirm those are happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other neutral testimony here in Carson City, we'll move to Las Vegas. And seeing none, AVHU will open up the phone line for neutral on Assembly Bill 496.
If you would like to testify for neutral for Assembly Bill 496, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers wishing to testify under neutral.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we will move on to our last bill for this afternoon or this early evening. Oh, I will close first on Assembly Bill 496. Thank you. And then we will move on to Assembly Bill 499. And we'll now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 499. This measure revises provisions relating to elections.
Well, good afternoon, Chair Mosca, Vice Chair Gonzalez, members of the Legislative Operations and Elections Committee. For the record, I am Steve Yeager. I represent Assembly District 9 in Southwest Las Vegas. I'm pleased to present Assembly Bill 499 to you this afternoon. This bill requires county clerks to establish online voter services portals, requires the Department of Motor Vehicles to transmit certain information to county clerks, and revises the signature curing process. You can see I've got a couple individuals with me at the table right now. I know you know and love them just as I do, and they are here to offer some testimony and answer questions as well. As I did with the last bill, Chair, I will say that this is still a work in progress. As you heard from county clerks, we're trying to make sure that we get this right and we have a bill that can be implemented. In addition, I did want to note, Chair, what you don't see in this bill or the other bills presented today is any resources being given to the counties to actually be able to do some of this. So we are still talking through that and working through how we make sure that counties are adequately resourced and staffed to be able to carry out these elections duties. So we're trying to figure out where best to house that, where how much money that might be, and where to put it. So I want you to know that those conversations are ongoing, and we're going to work towards making sure that we're not asking them to do something that is not feasible with the staffing and resources that they already have. Just by way of background, Chair, this bill provides for additional voluntary information that can be provided for the signature verification process, meaning more votes will ultimately be counted rather than rejected. The bill also requires that county clerks maintain an online portal so that information about voting is easily accessible to voters on the internet. With those introductory remarks, Chair, I'll take the committee through the bill. Section 2 of the bill requires each county clerk to establish and maintain a voter services portal on the clerk's website that allows registered voters to review their voter registration information, print the necessary form to update their voter registration information, view their sample ballot, and look up the locations of polling places and ballot drop boxes in their county. County clerks may request the assistance of the Secretary of State to establish and maintain the voter services portal. Sections 4 and 8 require mail ballot return envelopes to include a QR code or other machine-readable code that directs voters to the online voter services portal. I know you've all used QR codes before, but it can be a lot easier for someone to pull out their phone and scan a QR code than to go to their website and have to manually put in an address, and that is the idea here, for the convenience of voters to get the information they need. If they can pull out their phone and simply scan a QR code that takes them to the website, we think that would be a good addition. Sections 4 and 8 additionally require mail ballot return envelopes to include space for voters to voluntarily provide certain personally identifiable information for use in the new signature curing process envisioned by Sections 5 and 9 of the bill. Sections 4 and 8 require mail ballot return envelopes to include space for voters to voluntarily provide the last 4 digits of their driver's license, the last 4 digits of their social security number, or their voter identification number. Again, providing this information is voluntary. And Sections 4 and 8 will require this to be explained to voters in the instructions that are sent along with the mail ballots. Section 3 requires the Department of Motor Vehicles on a regular basis to submit certain information on each person who has a driver's license or identification card to county clerks. Such information includes the person's name, date of birth, social security number, driver's license or ID card number, birthplace, sex, height, and weight, photograph from the license or ID card, physical and mailing addresses, citizenship status, telephone number, email address, and veteran status. County clerks must then match the information from the DMV to registered voters in the county and electronically enter the information into the statewide voter registration database. County clerks must also indicate in the database whether a registered voter has a driver's license or ID card and identify registered voters who do not have either. Section 6 clarifies this information provided to the clerks by the Department of Motor Vehicles is confidential and is not a public record. Section 7 requires such information to be included in the statewide voter registration list as well. We're almost there, Chair. Sections 5 and 9 make various changes to the signature curing process. First, if a voter includes the last 4 digits of their driver's license, the last 4 digits of their social security number, or their voter identification number on the mail ballot return envelope pursuant to Sections 4 and 8, and such information is verified by the county clerk to be accurate, signature verification would not be required, and the voter is entitled to cast the ballot. Second, county and city clerks must ensure employees are available by telephone on evenings and weekends during the signature curing period, and that any voicemail or hold message used by the office of the clerk provides instructions on how to provide a signature verification or a signature confirmation. Finally, Sections 5 and 9 authorize a voter to confirm his or her signature on the mail ballot return envelope by email or text message. Chair, that is all I have for Assembly Bill 499, and with your permission, I would hand it over to Mr. Schrager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, Bradley Schrager of the law firm of Bravo Schrager in Las Vegas. Thank you to the chair and the members of the committee. This is a very important bill that is probably likely to excite some interest. Let me start with the voter services portal. Now, that itself will be a crucial tool for people to access all the information they need to be able to do all the things they need to be able to do to interact with their county clerk regarding their voter registration, their elected officials, all those things. Now, this particular bill directs that the QR code be put on voter information mailings with the ballots and the sample ballots. We've had some conversations with at least a few of the clerks, and we've come up with the notion that literally this QR code should be on every communication that a county clerk sends out. Why shouldn't it be? Instead of having special mailings, this is an easy portal for people to get through. It should be on every possible thing that someone gets so that they can get to their information and do whatever they need to do with the county clerk regarding their registration as easily as possible. So that's a possible amendment in the future. As far as the interaction with the DMV records, let me say this. In the most recent election, the voter ID amendment passed with a very high majority. I have no idea whether it's going to pass again, and it hasn't passed yet. It is not part of our Constitution. We all don't know. But I'll tell you what else we don't know. We don't know how many Nevadans don't have qualifying identification under the amendment. And to get from here to there is a long process. And so this is one parcel. It is good to know who doesn't have these IDs anyway, but certainly it would be prudent to understand because, look, let's be very frank. Even if the voter ID amendment were to pass, it cannot pass without the provision of free qualifying identifications to every Nevada voter. That's simply required by the United States Constitution, or else it becomes a poll tax. And so this is good information on its own for us to know what registered voters, how many, where are they, don't have the IDs they may need. And then after that, I don't need to go through all the signature ballot curing portions right now. The speaker's given a good overview of that, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have. I've already spoken about the intolerability of the current regime, and as the speaker says, this is a work in progress, and everyone's trying to reach toward a positive resolution to the systemic issues we've seen with signature verification in the past.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we will get to questions. Our first question is from Assemblymember Nadeem.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. So my question is regarding the easier signature curing with ID information. Voters may voluntarily provide last 4 digits of driver license, last 4 digits of social security number, and voter ID number. Is it all 3 of them or any one of them?
Thank you for the question, Assemblymember Bradley Schrager. For the record, under the way the bill is written right now, it is an optional choice of those 3.
Any one of them?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Assemblymember Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. For my question, I'm going to channel my inner assemblyman from District 8 and direct your attention to Section 5 and 9 on the voicemail thing. Are we going to put something in there to make sure that there is language accessibility, or are we going to come back in 2 years and fix it?
Gabriel DeCara, for the record. Thank you for the question, Assemblymember. I will say Secretary Aguilar believes strongly in language access, and so we do our best to provide everything that we do in at least English and Spanish, if not providing additional language interpretive services. There is a bill, a language access bill, making its way through the legislature at present. My understanding is if, for example, that bill were to pass, this would be captured by that bill as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblymember Cole.
Hello. So my question is in Section 3, with all of the information that the Department of Motor Vehicles has to submit. It seems like it's a lot of information that's not necessarily tied to identifying somebody in a mail ballot, right? And the signature verification and whatnot you're trying to do. Social security number, it's the full number, not the last 4. Date of birth, birthplace, sex, height, and weight. I don't want you guys to know that. Thank you. And I'm just, curious as to how that works and why you're looking for all of that information. And what about a data breach? I mean, that information going out all the time seems to be a risk. Thank you.
Gabriel DeCara, for the record, thank you for the question. I'll address the technical part first. So presently, and as of early January, we have a all-new AVR system, a new direct pipeline from DMV to the new Secretary of State's top-down system. It meets all of the state's security requirements at every end. OCIO and our office have done all of the necessary security reviews. I understand, of course, that does not mean I understand that things happen, right? However, my best guess is that what this would be is an expansion of that existing service where we are already feeding information directly from DMV into the Secretary of State's top-down system. This would be a separate expansion because this is not related to automatic voter information. The information is probably flowing a little differently, but because we already have that pipeline, this would not be as technically difficult as it could be. I can't speak to the uses of the information. I'll allow the bill sponsors to do that, but I will say we do have data controls in place for information that's in the VRAM system. So, for example, if you registered to vote and you gave us your social security number, we have that. It's not like it pops up under your name. In fact, you can. There are certain levels of access that you have to have as a user to be able to access that information. And above and beyond that, I believe we have security checks in place to see, no, I can't speak to this. I know that we are working on the process for having security checks in place where if you've exposed someone's social security number, that is flagged individually, where we know who is looking at social security numbers so that if we have to ask them why, we can ask them why. Data privacy is something that the Secretary takes incredibly seriously. And with that being said, to answer your other questions, I'll turn it over, I believe, to Mr. Schrager.
Thank you. Assembly Member, I hope that answered your question. I did not construct this list. Say, why do you guys want it? I don't want any of this information. Clearly, the government, the state, already has this information. If there are aspects of this list that are not in furtherance of the goals of the legislation, that is certainly something that should be looked at.
And maybe that answers the question. Like, you're getting some of this information now based on the automatic voter registration. So what items that are listed here in this statute would be in addition to what you're already getting? And then I have a follow-up question based on the information. I know I can look up, as I recall, I can look up on St. Clair County's website and I can put in my address and the last four of my social or the last four of my driver's license to access all of my voting history and everything else to know what I've done. We're now going to be adding that onto the mail-in ballot envelope. So I'm just wondering, but my name's not on there, right? So there's no way for that person to now have those last four things and be able to access that online portal, right?
Bradley Schrager, for the record, Assembly Member, as you saw, a provision in a previous bill did have the possibility of placing the voter's name onto the envelope for different reasons. So that would be a potential, yes. Well.
Thank you very much. So the information that I believe, I can't say for sure, I can follow up with you separately. The AVR technical document is very long and complex. I do not believe that we get birthplace, sex, height, and weight photograph. That is not something that is transferred through the AVR process. We do not get citizenship status. As part of the AVR process, the DMV is only sending us that information if that voter is a citizen. So we don't get any information on voters that do not meet that qualification. And I want to draw attention to another provision in this bill that I think is very important, that next subsection 2, DMV shall not submit information to a clerk pursuant for any person who has a driver's authorization card. So if you are explicitly getting a card based on a document that shows that you are not a citizen, DMV doesn't send the county that information, which I think is excellent. We also do not get, I don't believe we get electronic mail address as part of the AVR process, nor do we get veteran status as part of the AVR process. But I'll follow up separately to confirm that list is accurate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think with that, I have a last question. For me, I really see the QR code, emails, text messages. I see it as a more automatic way. I see it as modernization for what people are looking for in the kind of world we live in today. So really just, my question was, would we be leading on this, or are there other states that are similar? Or is this modernization something we'd be leading on in Nevada?
Steve Yeager, for the record, thank you for the question, Chair. I think this is something we would be leading on. As you know, there aren't too many states that have mail-in voting. There are more now than there were then, but I think you're spot on. And we look at almost every committee in this building. We talk about communicating with our constituents where they're at, and we know where they're at. They're on their cell phones. They're on their email. Where they're not is their mailbox. Like you, I'm sure you know, I know folks and you know folks who don't even check their mail, right? And when they do, it just goes right into the garbage. So I think we would be leading on this as far as I know. And, it's a nice place for Nevada to be, right? Because we're often talked about not being leaders. But I think when it comes to mail-in voting, when it comes to what we're trying to do here with signature verification, when it comes to trying to be prepared for what might be coming in terms of voter identification, we want to lead. And I think this bill will help us get there. Yeah, go ahead.
Gabriel DeCara for the record. I just want to add that a key component of what we hope will be phase 3 of the VREMS project will be building a state-of-the-art voter portal that allows additional functionality to do things like allow a voter to, for example, directly cure their signature within the portal itself. We have to build it first. We're working hand in hand with the vendor to ensure that it meets all of our security, et cetera, requirements, but we absolutely want to build a process that, this bill would make it easier to access, that allows more voter accessibility than ever. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And with that, we're going to go on to testimony. So we will have 20 minutes for support, 20 minutes for opposition, and 20 minutes for neutral on Assembly Bill 499. The number is 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 872-5205-8354. Don't forget to state and spell your name for the record, and everyone will have 2 minutes each. We'll start here for support in Carson City of Assembly Bill 499. Seeing none, we will move down to Las Vegas for support in AB 499. And seeing none, AVH, we will open up the phone lines for support in Assembly Bill 499.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 499, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in support.
Thank you. We will now move on to opposition of Assembly Bill 499. We will start here in Carson City. Don't forget to state and spell your name for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Catherine Ingham, CATHERINE-INGHAM. Excuse me. I'm here to read a letter from the Nevada Federation of Republican Women, also known as the NVFRW. Dear Chair and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment. On behalf of the Nevada Federation of Republican Women, the NVFRW, which represents over 1,500 members across 18 clubs statewide, we express our strong opposition to AB 499. This bill mandates automatic data transfers from the DMV to county clerks, risking the inclusion of non-citizens in the voter rolls. It also weakens signature verification by allowing ballots to be accepted without confirming the voter's signature. AB 499 undermines election integrity and burdens local governments with unfunded mandates. We respectfully urge a no vote. Respectfully, Mary Banganel, President of the NVFRW. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca, members of the committee. I'm Jim DeGraffenried. I'm Nevada's Republican National Committee man here in opposition to AB 499. Establishing the voter service portals on the county clerk websites duplicates to some extent information that is already available on the Secretary of State's websites. We have concern that when multiple agencies provide the same information that there's a chance of conflicting information, and we would suggest that with the current top-down registration system in place, that the features of the portal that are not on the SOS website should be added to that site rather than being handled by 17 separate counties. The data matching in Section 3 is troubling. We have a concern that this data could be used in legal challenges to the voter ID law if it is passed again by Nevada voters, which seems likely based not only on the results of the 24 election, but based on consistent polling that shows that a large majority of voters, regardless of political affiliation, support voter ID. We have concerns regarding discrepancies in data formats, incomplete or outdated records, and we share Assemblymember Cole's concerns on the extent of information that is requested due to risks of data breach. Additionally, we've been advised by the Secretary of State that clerks may not legally require proof of citizenship in order to register to vote, and in the presentation it was clarified that that information will not be shared about non-citizens, so we're puzzled about why this irrelevant information would be shared between the DMV and the clerks. Additionally, Section 9 allows voters to include specific identification details, such as the last 4 digits of driver's license, social security number, or voter ID number on the return envelope in order to verify the voter. If the information is accurate and confirmed by the clerk, then the signature verification process for the mail ballot is not required. We are already concerned that Nevada does not perform sufficient signature verification to inspire confidence in our elections, and to lower those standards as proposed in this bill does nothing to increase confidence in our elections. For these reasons, we urge a no vote on AB 499. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move to opposition in Las Vegas. Not seeing any, AVH will open up the phone lines for opposition of Assembly Bill 499.
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 499, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
This is Ellen Gifford. Section 3 of this bill requires a voter's full social security number be transmitted by the DMV to the county clerk. Past statutes have required only the last 4 digits if the person does not have a driver's license or ID card issued by the DMV. This change infringes on voter privacy. Regarding Section 4, providing portions of social security numbers, driver's license numbers, and voter ID number on the outside of a mail ballot envelope in order to bypass signature verification is irresponsible and invites fraud. Anyone can write numbers on the outside of an envelope. I'll note also that the statutes regarding the processes for transmitting voter registration information from the DMV expired December 31st, 2024, and there doesn't appear to be any statutes for those processes that replace them. Perhaps this bill was meant to do that, but it's not the right bill. Thank you.
Thank you. AVH, next caller, please.
Hi, Yolanda Canuck, Yolanda, last name Knaak. I'm representing myself, and this bill does not improve security of our elections. First of all, the DMV isn't notoriously great at getting all our information correct. And second, if you recall question 7 in the last election, 73.7% of Nevadans voted in favor of requiring a voter ID to vote. And I know this bill doesn't affect that at all, but voters want extra security. And I think this bill does not improve the security of our elections. So please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Greetings, everyone. CYRUS, HOJJATY. I oppose this bill. I will ditto. Thank you so much. I do appreciate the efforts to improve our elections, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Good afternoon. This is Oscar Williams, OSCAR WILLIAMS from Reno, Nevada. I'm opposed to this bill because AB 499 is really several bills mashed together. In a short 16 pages, I know 8 to 9 separate issues. These deserve individual bills. This is an improper bill and should not pass because of it. In addition, and maybe you're not aware, but in Washoe County in the last election, the return mail ballot envelope changed dramatically, so there was no longer a privacy flap covering one's signature. One's signature, which I consider to be private information, privileged information, was exposed to the world along with my name and address and everything else on the outside of the mail ballot. That's not really a part of this bill. I mean, maybe you're just not aware of it, or there's no repercussions if we just change the envelope form and allow our private signature to be exposed. That needs to be given some attention. Of course, this bill doesn't do that. It mentioned something about an envelope or a sleeve for privacy. Well, we're supposed to have a sleeve. That was the point, and that's so that the election worker who's taking the ballot out of the envelope doesn't see what you're voting. But I guess it's an or. Anyway, I oppose it, and I ask that you vote no on AB 499 and all amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. AVH, next caller, please.
Good afternoon. Chair, thank you so much. This is former Assemblywoman Claire Thomas. I am in opposition to AB 499, and specifically for all the information that is being collected, reference Section 3, to have my full Social Security number, to have my place of birth, and, as the Assembly member mentioned, my weight, which fluctuates on a daily basis. Also, to have, all the information, my veteran status. I think that this is, highly susceptible to fraud for someone to take my identity and become me. And I think this is something that should be looked at again. And, I have to ditto much of the previous opposition callers. I have to agree with them. This is actually something that I think that it should be amended, relooked into. I understand that mail-in ballots, are here to stay. I am in favor of it, but I think there's a better way. And that's not to collect all the information that a citizen has and what's protecting them from data breaches. This is something that I must oppose. And thank you for taking the call. Thank you.
Thank you. AVH, next caller, please.
Chair, there are no additional callers for opposition testimony.
Thank you. And with that, we will move to neutral for Assembly Bill 499. We will start here in Carson City. Don't forget to state and spell your name for the record, and you may begin when you are ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Mosca, members of the committee. Once again, Cadence Matievich, Cadencematijevich, representing Washoe County, here for my neutral hat trick on Speaker Yeager Day. And to say once again that we appreciate very much the Speaker, the Secretary's office, and other proponents of this bill working with Washoe County, the elections officials in this state, to be sure that as we implement this bill, if it is the policy determination of this body to put forth the provisions of this, that we can in fact implement the bill consistent with the intent. We particularly are grateful to the Speaker for calling out that there would be confidentiality for the information that will be transmitted to local election officials from the DMV. Again, as you all decide which of that information is to be included in your policy, we do think that some of that is not currently covered under confidentiality for certain pieces of voter registration and should be considered. And then additionally, in Section 4, the portion that makes easier signature curing, we are all for that, but we do think that it's important for the committee to know that currently that will need to be a manual process for us. And so we to the extent that we know you are all eager to get results faster, we will need to continue to work on that to be sure that we aren't having the unintended consequence of slowing ourselves down by adding that. We want it to work in conjunction with the signature, not as a separate option. Thank you.
Hello, Chair Mosca and members of the committee. My name is Ashley Kennedy, spelled Kennedy, representing Clark County. I just want to thank Speaker Yeager and the bill proponents for working with us on and meeting with us on Assembly Bill 499 and for the continued discussions that I know we will be having on this bill. I will wanted to just point out for, all of you are well aware, mail ballots became permanent in the state after the 21 legislative session. 2020 was an interesting year where we kind of made a really hard adjustment to do an election by mail during the COVID-19 pandemic. I think in the 22 and 24 election, we were just constantly trying to improve our systems. We've done a lot of investments at Clark County to improve how we are processing mail ballots, but it's relatively new in our state in comparison, and we share that commitment to continue to improve, and as Washoe County had indicated, our continued conversations need to be had. We just want to make sure that we, within the systems that we have, we can meet the intent of the bill, and we are looking forward to further conversations. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Vincent Guthrow. Last name is spelled Guthreau. First name Vincent, Vinson. I will offer some fresh testimony and ditto the comments of my other jurisdictions here. Again, here on behalf of some of our smaller jurisdictions, we thank the Speaker for continuing these conversations. I also appreciate in putting on the record some of the fiscal issues that might be there if there's large impacts to getting us to a good place. I know this is a policy committee, but sometimes the fiscal issues are the policy. So I really appreciate, again, the continued effort, and thank you for the opportunity to come up in neutral.
Thank you. And with that, we will move to neutral in Las Vegas. Seeing none, AVH, we will open up the phone lines for neutral for Assembly Bill 499.
Chair, we have no additional callers for neutral testimony.
Great. With that, my final invite, Speaker Yeager, would you like to make any closing remarks?
Gabriel DeCara for the record. Thank you to the members of the committee. Assemblymember Cole had an excellent question, and I was able to find our memo listing those pieces of information. When the legislature passed the new automatic voter registration process, there were some additional requirements put in place that became law as of January 1st, 2025. And so this represents the information currently that we receive from the DMV via the AVR process. And I wanted to include this specifically. It includes a description of the document presented to the AVR agency that confirms, that indicates the person is a citizen. So, for example, it does not give, let's say they present a passport to the DMV, it does not give their passport number, but when we receive that data, it says this person provided their passport. And I think that's an important element. We also receive first and last name, residential address, mailing address, date of birth, and then whatever their identification information is, whatever they got from the DMV, driver's license, ID card, or last four of social, and then their signature as well. So that is the information we absorb as part of the AVR process. Does not include telephone, email, etc. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Steve Yeager for the record. Chair, before we close, I did want to recognize our elections officials who work very hard in the state to make elections work. Some of them are here in the room, and I imagine some of them are watching or tuning in, but I wanted to take a moment to thank them. They're under enormous amounts of pressure with our we need everything right away society that we live in. And I also want to thank all those who volunteer. So many volunteers who come out to help run elections, and as I said, they're often a thankless job, so I wanted to take a moment to thank them. And then, Chair, I just wanted to thank you and the committee for entertaining me for a few hours, a couple hours really. Honestly, I thought we'd be here a little bit longer, so probably a welcome relief that we get a little bit of our time back. But I want to thank you for hearing this bill and all the bills really. I mean, the intent here is to try to make our election process better. I think, mail-in ballots are here to stay as long as I have a say in it, but I think we can do things better. And I think all three of the elections bills that were presented today have ideas about how to do things better. Are they perfect? No. Are we working on them? Yes. Do I appreciate your feedback and questions? I most certainly do. And we will work hard to bring amendments back to this committee prior to Friday's deadline to hopefully get these moving. But most of all, thank you for your time and effort and attention tonight. And I hope you all get a little bit of rest because we have a busy 3 days ahead of us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and I know we share in that gratitude for everybody that works in elections in our state, so thank you. And with that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 499 and close Speaker Yeager Day. So with that, our last item of business is public comment. Each person has 2 minutes to provide testimony. Written public comment may also be submitted to the committee up to 24 hours after the meeting. Remember, members of the public may comment on anything related to legislative operations and elections, but not on any bills that we have heard today, since those bill hearings have closed, and that is the rules of the committee. I will remind everyone of the call-in number and meeting ID for those wishing to have public comment over the phone. For the last time, it is 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 872-5205-8354. Don't forget to state and spell your name for the record, which helps our committee secretary. We'll start in Carson City for public comment. Seeing none, we will go to Las Vegas. And seeing none, AVH, we will open up the phone line for public comment.
Provide public comment. Please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good evening, everyone. CYRUS, HOJJATY. I've been multitasking, calling in the legislature and driving people around in the tourist corridor, a very busy convention day. I'd like to talk about a billboard I've been seeing that's legislative related, if that's okay. It's from Terrible's AB 530. They're very frustrated, and I'm not going to state my position, but it kind of does give me a sense of feeling that the masses are not really happy with the way our society, our state, our country is going. I think it's just the real problem is not this party or that party or this ideology. It's just that the special interest groups, the donor money, just has too much power. And it wasn't too long ago where there were better limitations. So just the climate and everything, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's just not looking good. And of course, this issue is very concerning because, to do my job, I have to buy fuel and everything. So I don't know, not easy out there, but we appreciate you taking public comment and wish us all luck in these busy times. Thank you. Yield.
Thank you so much. AVH, next caller, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to give public comment. This is Ellen Gifford, and I would just like to state that the difference between a county clerk and a registrar of voters is that the county clerk is elected by the people for the purpose of managing their county elections. The registrars of voters is a position that someone is appointed to, and that position is only currently in Washoe and Clark counties due to population size. An elected office is very different from an appointed position. Thank you.
Thank you so much. AVH, next caller, please.
Chair, there are no additional callers wishing to provide comment.
Okay, thank you. And with that, members, Thursday we will have our next meeting, which will be at 4 p.m. in our regular meeting room. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for your hard work.